Five, four, three, two. Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new Virtues Rage right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. I am Virtue. That is Jargo. What's going on, man?
What's happening, brother? Man, it's been kind of a crazy week in the world of pro wrestling, don't you think?
Dude, like, why? Anytime somebody like Shane McMahon has some controversy within his company, within the dirt sheets, and then you have people spouting off Cody Rhodes leaving AEW. Where's he going to go? I can't, like, that's just the type of fan I am, Jargo. I get behind the polarizing people, whether they're talented or not talented or average or above average, it doesn't matter. Like, I just thrive off of this kind of stuff.
Well,
And
I mean,
that's what we're going to be talking.
controversy creates cash, right? I mean, Bischoff said that years ago, and he's absolutely right. Well, I guess unless you're AEW and you watch your ratings drop like 150,000 viewers when Cody leaves the company. 261.
And like, I thought for sure they were going to hit 1 million plus again. People were going to tune in to kind of be interested, like what's really going on with this Cody stuff. What are they going to focus on, like, in its place? I was shocked. I know the Olympics are still going on and this and that, but they were going on. Like, what could have made that happen? And we're going to talk about some female wrestling too, by the way. Mm-hmm. But what could have made that? I'm shocked.
I'm a little shocked, but I'm not at the same time because.
But such a far drop, like not it could have. Well, it wasn't even like 975.
Here's the thing, though. What did they have advertised for last night's show? What was the hook to get you to tune in to last night's show? There just wasn't really.
See, yeah, they really don't do that week in and week out.
Well, no, they do. I mean, like they advertise stuff well in advance, and like, last week they had the world title match, and there's the CM Punk thing, and they got some big debut, and this was just like an average week of Dynamite. Where they just didn't really have anything going on. There wasn't really anything advertised. It was just kind of a very awkward week. It was very much just like a filler episode. I thought Dynamite was fine this week, but there was not any one big hook. Like, there was nothing that, oh my God, I have to tune in to see fill in the blank. There just wasn't that this week. And I think it's really reflective inside of the ratings.
So do they hype the next show up to try to get that back? It seems like that's why I called a yo-yo. I could have went and sought out that guy that was arguing with me on Twitter saying, since they've been on TBS, it's not been a yo-yo. And, of course, I had to go back and show him, well, yes, it has been, and just wait till next week. And, like, I didn't think it was going to be this bad. And I didn't go back and like, attack that guy, even though I could have. Brandy Rhodes, I mean, so we got to talk about.
Well, and I mean, as far as the Cody thing goes, and this being kind of reflective of Cody, the only pushback I will give you on that is Cody hasn't been on the show for the last 2 weeks. Like, Cody didn't have anything going on to begin with since he lost the TNT championship to Sammy Guevara. So, I mean, there's no big loss there. There is the Paige Van Zant versus Brandy Rhodes thing, which I guess kind of spins off into this women's conversation that you want to have. But I don't think anybody's really too torn up that we're not going to see that match because it was not going to be good. I mean, like, everybody knew on the surface just looking at it, this is not going to be good. I'm all for Paige Van Zant getting into the world of pro wrestling. I think she's a hell of a talent. She's got a name. She looks the part. She's got the legit background. But for her first match ever, you need to put her in the ring with somebody that can lead her through the match, not Brandy Rhodes.
And so, like, we're supposed to talk about, WWE's women division and AEW's, and you told me before, while star power, WWE still has it, but
clearly
outside of that bubble, what do they have? What prospects do they have? How do they book? Nikki Cross is that stupid, almost superhero. Look what they've done with Alexa Bliss. She's finally rehabilitated. Versus, AEW might not have the biggest names, but you're going to try to convince me that maybe they are better just as a division standpoint. And here you already have a chess piece or a pawn on your rack there because it has improved. in 1 week's time, there's no Brandy Rhodes in there anymore.
Right.
So like that,
right.
that's you win that one. I can't.
Well, and now is kind of a bad time for me to be having this conversation, because Elimination Chamber is right around the corner. It's going to go down on Saturday. And by default, you have 6 women already involved with the Elimination Chamber. What the point that I'm trying to get across is, when you look at the way that WWE handles their women's division, there's typically a women's story going on SmackDown, and it's around Charlotte and the title and whoever she's facing off with this week.
Correct.
And over on Raw, it's Becky Lynch and whoever she happens to be facing off with this week, because they don't normally have the Elimination Chamber as part of the equation. Whereas when I watch like Rampage, which I cover for the Hameen Media Group over at channelattitude.com every week, it's not uncommon for them to have 3 women's stories going on Rampage. Like, as far as the attention that they give to their women's division, the creative that they do, the amount of talent that they use, they don't have the star power. But as far as the division goes, I find the AEW women's division far more entertaining, because I can invest in the characters, because the characters are always around. They all have a story going on. Whereas typically inside of a WWE context, okay, we just got done with Doudrop. You won't see her on TV for 6 weeks, because now we're going to move on to the next challenger for Becky Lynch, and that's going to be Bianca Belair. And it'll be Becky Lynch and Bianca for the next 6 weeks, and then it'll be Alexa's turn to go in. And it's so formulaic inside of the WWE. I can't invest in any of the talents except for the huge stars like Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley when she's around. Like, I think the talent, as far as WWE goes, they have the names, they have the top end talent, and then there's everybody from Liv Morgan down that is basically just interchangeable with the AEW women's division, but they don't get the creative time.
So over the last 6 months to a year, Bayley's been hurt.
Yeah,
Asuka's been out. I guess she was hurt. Those are 2 big players that they haven't had. Rousey is just a name. Like, I'm not going to put her, they bring her back for these WrestleMania.
She's a special attraction.
And, of course, she wasn't there. The Alexa Bliss got caught up in the Bray Wyatt stuff. Like, let's be honest. Back when it was like the girls coming up through, the women coming up through NXT, everybody was talking about Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, Becky. And I was like, I know something about Alexa Bliss. Remember, she was a manager of Murphy and whoever. Yeah, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know what it is about her, but like, she's got some type of star appeal. I could see connect with Vince McMahon. She had a pretty good run in terms of getting booked strong and being the champion. I know she's, tiny girl or whatnot, and she had some injury problems, but overall, she's been a multiple time champion, and she kind of wasted away. So I get what you're saying. I'm still invested in WWE women's division more than AEW. And I know AEW has Britt Baker.
Well, just take the Britt Baker thing.
Champion.
Just take the Britt Baker thing. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Last night on Dynamite, how many talents are involved currently with Britt Baker? You've got Britt Baker on top. The whole division revolves around her. You've got Rebel, who's her assistant. You got Jamie Hayter, who there's some kind of tension between Britt and Jamie. You've got Thunder Rosa coming for the title. You've got Mercedes Martinez, the hired assassin, who's clearly going babyface and going to tag with Thunder Rosa. Like, there's just inside of that story, you've got a half a dozen talents involved, and you just don't see that inside of the WWE in the way that they tell their stories.
In the Attitude Era, you kind of did, but like, you're right. Now, who's the TBS champion? Isn't that a women's championship belt?
Jade Cargill.
Okay, and they're pushing her for more of trying to get a more mainstream appeal.
And she's kind of on a Goldberg run at this point. They're making a big deal out of every one of her wins. Every time she wins, they have a new graphic for her up on the big Tron. Like, they're clearly building her to something, whatever that something may be. And my God, man, I am not a guy who comments a whole lot on women's appearance, but Jade Cargill, you cannot take your eyes off of that woman. I mean, like, she's kind of got that Scott Steiner genetic freak. Like, she's a 10 out of 10. Like, you can't take your eyes off of her. If she can learn how to wrestle, they can make a lot of money with her.
Now, I feel like for the longest time, like, even before Britt Baker was a champion, it was like Sheeta and Nyla Rose. Like, it was just not a very big division. I know Thunder Rosa came along. She had that match against Britt Baker. They got bloody. People got interested. But, like, to me, outside of that, the thing is with WWE, like you said, they might mistreat like Rhea Ripley. What happened to her? Supposed to be another big star. Charlotte basically has beat her every time. And where is she now? She's just mixed in the women's mid-card. The whole Nikki Cross thing, the whole stupid superhero gimmick. Ever since the brand split and you have two major women's titles, it's always about the top two women. And it's Charlotte and Becky right now, obviously. And I can see where you're like, well, outside of them two and their feuds, what's the rest of the women's division, right? That's still, because of this convoluted brand split, that's still two different top things for the women's division, and who are capable, because it's been proven, I know Ronda's been kind of responsible, of headlining major events where you can't say that about AEW. So I'm always drawn to the main event, right? The headliners. And the women's division in WWE, clearly, Britt Baker's trying to be a star, but WWE's headliners clearly crushed the female headliners in AEW.
Absolutely.
And that's my draw. Yeah.
There's a huge gap between the top four, the four horsewomen, and then, like you said, Asuka, Rousey, Bliss, I guess, is kind of in that mix, but she needs somebody opposite of her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a huge separation in the star power of those women and everybody else, right? But once you get to the and everybody else, I feel like those divisions are pretty on par. Like, I feel like Britt Baker and Liv Morgan are not that different of a performer.
So tell me this then. What if WWE didn't have the brand split and they had one women's title? Now we got to look at it differently.
Would you have faith that they wouldn't just tell one women's story then on both shows?
You don't think?
Because you
don't think they would do the women's title match, and then even though they don't have the other title, you would still have that 1B top feud with no title. Like, WWE's always been known to do. Attitude Era was really big for that. I'm just talking like in general. You always had like your title main event, and you always had that really good feud sub main event.
I don't have faith in them to do that. I just don't at this point. Because they haven't shown me any desire to do anything different. Like, perfect example is we have the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, right? Like, I mean, what a huge creative program they've got going on there. Like, I can't even tell you who the champions are or who their challengers are. And if they won't even put effort into that,
they don't do any of their tag teams, though. Like, to be fair, Vince McMahon has given up on tag team wrestling a long time ago.
Well, he hates the way that it looks on TV. That's the problem. And I kind of understand that, and I don't disagree, but I feel like that's more a problem of WWE production and how they shoot things than it is tag team wrestling.
So because you have your brand split and you have your two major champions, it gets thin. Like, you're right. Like, Liv Morgan just all of a sudden getting a title shot. Do drop. It's my turn. It gets convoluted. It gets really thin. And
Bianca Belair. That's the other one that deserves to be mentioned amongst that main event talent group. I don't want to leave her out.
And I feel during the big events, the women of WWE clearly shine. Now, when they're doing those in-between pay-per-views and the Raws and the SmackDowns, now you're just doing the filler crap because there's so much WWE TV. Now you're looking at the women's division. I can see it from your point of view, whereas maybe AEW doesn't look that bad because they're at least more consistent, like constant. WWE, it's either these big matches for WrestleMania or you have these matches like where Doudrop gets a title shot and she's not going to win it from Becky.
Well, I mean, this is kind of what I mean, right? Like, I mean, I have the AEW women's roster here in front of me. Okay.
And then I want to bring up something like, I got a curveball for you when you're done with that.
So Abaddon, obviously not being used on TV right now. She's doing more of the dark thing, and they're still trying to figure out what to do with that character. But at least people know what Abaddon is, right? Yeah. Then you have the Bunny, who's featured on TV, Anna Jay, who's been featured on TV pretty heavily, Britt Baker, the current champion, Hikaru Shida, Jade Cargill, Chris Statlander, Layla Hirsch, Nyla Rose, Penelope Ford, Rebel, Red Velvet, Riho, Ruby Soho, Serena Deeb, Tay Conti, Thunder Rosa. Like, all these women have stories going on inside of AEW right now. When I look at the depth, like, yeah, they don't have the star power. They don't have the in-ring talent, but at least they're making the effort with the women's division. Whereas inside of WWE, it's like, oh my God, can you do something with this talent? Could you do something maybe with that talent? Like, oh my God, how do you not have anything creatively for Toni Storm? Like, why is Ember Moon down in NXT? And then they end up cutting off. Right. Like, why is Io Shirai in NXT? Somebody, please, for the love of God, tell me why one of the best women's wrestlers on the face of the planet has been stuck in NXT for like 5 years.
And that's a third brand. There's a third women's division with a third title, and it gets oversaturated. So now, WWE, they still haven't done another all-female women's pay-per-view, right? That seems like a one and done.
They don't have the star power. Even with the star power they have, they still don't have the star power to sell out arenas and do all women's pay-per-views. They just don't.
The females headline WrestleMania with Rousey. At least without Rousey, Sasha and Belair got a night one closeout match. So it's still there, but are they still doing the Mae Young Classic? And to do that, how like they used to do, where they'd get people outside the company as well. Because to me, if they don't do that, I get it, right? It's main event or bust for the women's division of WWE. So I can give you that part of the argument versus AEW's division. If they still kind of try to take this women's division seriously, even down on the NXT level, and do this Mae Young Classic and try to bring in more people, what's AEW? I mean, you just mentioned all of those people in AEW. Where's their, doesn't have to be Mae Young, but where's their tournament to say, WWE, we'll take this from you. We'll do this better than you now, and we'll make a star out of this, and they'll become a champion out of it.
Well, I mean, they're doing the Owen Hart thing, right? And they're going to have a women's tournament for the Owen Hart Memorial as well as a men's tournament.
So that's your Dusty Classic, Mae Young Classic,
right? And we don't. I don't.
Do we know when that is?
March or May?
Okay.
It kind of escapes me. I assume we'll hear a lot more about that after Revolution. As far as the Mae Young Classic, who knows if they're going to do that? I mean, that was a Papa Hunter thing. Like, who knows?
NXT 2.0 now, so I could, like, I just don't, granted, like, a Doudrop getting a championship match, how does that make sense? Now, I'm going to counter this. Did you have the records in AEW? Why is it sometimes somebody will get a title shot and there's people that literally have better records that, like, to me, that defeats the purpose? Are they still doing, hey, this is who we're going to push in for a title match next, like WWE would? You know what I mean? They're really bad with it with the guys. If you look at everybody's record and it really went by rankings, sometimes people jump up and get title shots that are 5 down.
Well,
it's convoluted, I think.
I feel like that's especially true in the TNT and TBS championships, the mid-card titles. When it comes to the world titles, I don't really feel like that's been the case. Britt Baker normally defends the title against the number one contender, and the same with whoever the AEW men's champion is. Those TBS and TNT championships, the TV titles are a little bit different kind of situation, but the tag division's been really, really bad for that too.
And it's just, I don't know. Maybe I expect a lot. Like when AEW first started, I liked that first 3 to 6 months. I know the EVPs were booking a lot of the matches. Like, remember before it was officially AEW, you knew Cody was involved. You knew the Young Bucks. They put on, what was that, All In? Was that the show?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. They made Jericho the first champion because he's a recognizable name.
Yep.
And then Tony Khan just started, hey, I'm running the thing. It got out through Meltzer and the dirt sheets. And that turned me off, dude. Like, if somehow they could have worked me, and even if Tony Khan was running this thing, 100% control, if he could have just been disciplined enough to keep it behind the scenes, and not even Meltzer knew this, and it was all speculation, is the Bucks, Cody, Omega, Khan, who's really booking, we just didn't know, I bet you I'd probably be more receptive to some of the stuff. I don't know why I'm just put off by that.
See, now I view it the
other way. I know it's not fair, but that affects me. Like, he wants to be Vince before he's ever a Vince McMahon.
I view it the other way. And I guess my counter to that would be the way that AEW was set up at the beginning. The Bucks were booking the tag team division. Cody was booking the men's singles division, along with the help of Matt Jackson, and Kenny was booking the women's division. And the problem was that those are three very different philosophies when it comes to booking and how to run a wrestling show. Cody is very much built in that old school territory kind of booking. You have the Young Bucks, who are very much in the PWG kind of style of booking. And you have Kenny with his Japanese kind of style of booking. And the show was eclectic. It was disjointed. It didn't make any sense. It didn't feel like a show. It felt more like Saturday Night Live, and you were just watching a series of segments that didn't go together.
Damn, that's why I liked it. I mean, you know me, WWE.
I mean,
that's entertainment guy.
But that's really what it was. Now, with Tony just taking care of all of it, I mean, he's taking input from different sources, but it's one vision, and it doesn't feel nearly as eclectic. It feels like there's a lot more flow to the show than those early days of AEW.
Well, why should the tag division be the same as the women's division and be the same as the men's world title division? Those are all completely different genres of the show.
But there's one narrative structure for the show versus when you look at Seinfeld versus The Big Bang Theory. Both of them were comedies, but they existed in very different kind of universes, where Seinfeld was more of the intelligent kind of narrative structure of humor. You had to stop, you had to think about it, you had to put yourself into those situations, right? Whereas Big Bang Theory was a lot more, it's basically dick and fart joke kind of humor with punchline, one-liners, and Sheldon's awkwardness. It's very in-your-face comedy. But they're both comedies, but two very different narrative structures. I don't want to see Sheldon and Kramer on camera together. Like, that doesn't work. They're two very different narrative structures. You need the cohesiveness of whatever the universe is that you're stuck inside of. And that's my problem with AEW when they do, I don't know, stupid like flaming table spots or barbed wire spots or cutters off of the top of ladders or exploding rings. It's because it blows up your narrative for the rest of the show, and it just doesn't work.
Well, here we are now. No Cody anymore, and we're going to be talking about that on the No DQ review, and we will have to see. I mean, Dynamite took a massive hit in total viewers this week. We'll see if Tony Khan can keep something, make it exciting, promote something. And even if it's a yo-yo, right, if he keeps bumping up over 1 million, then at least it averages out over the course of a month. But I don't know.
Let me ask you this before we wrap up. As far as this women's division thing goes, what's the main event of AEW Revolution? Is it Hangman Adam Page defending the AEW championship against the challenger Adam Cole?
Okay.
Or is it Dr. Britt Baker DMD versus Thunder Rosa for the AEW women's championship? Because I think I know which match I would rather see in the main event spot.
Well, I would absolutely want to see that women's match over the men's. Absolutely. I can't argue with you there. Especially, they got the history too, so they can really play into it. Man, Yeah, and again, Adam Cole already getting a title shot or whatever. But
well, I feel like at this point it's not even so much Adam Cole getting the title shot. It's, oh my God, we have to get this title off of Hangman, and who do we put it on?
Yeah,
and Adam Cole at least presents as champion.
Adam Cole, AEW World Champion, Britt Baker. Although I think Thunder Rosa could win.
I think Thunder Rosa wins
it. But just say she didn't and Britt kept it. There's your power couple in AEW. Bye-bye Cody. Bye-bye Brandy. Yeah. But a good discussion. And I'm sure more things will pop up too. It's WrestleMania season. We'll have to see how this plays out in AEW. So we can always bring this back as a topic, like let's revisit. Anything you want to say in closing?
Not a whole lot, man. Keep up on social media at NotJargo, MichaelJargo.com.
And we got to cut out of here because we got to go do the No DQ review. So you can follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_virtue. Check us out on the No DQ review over on NoDQ.com. And we do the sit down with Big Vito right here, also on the BigVitoBrand.com. For Jargo, I am Virtue. This has been Virtue's Rage, and we will catch you again next time.